For only the second time since August, they've lost here at St James's Park by 2 goals to 1. Well, let's go back to the studio, where we can hear from Rob, from Steve and from Natalie.
Welcome back to Matchday Live, where City have been beaten at St James's Park 2-1 in what I imagine was an incredibly entertaining game for a neutral or indeed a Newcastle fan. City was 68% of the possession, a huge 17 shots, but only 4 of them on target today. Still joined in the studio by Rob Lee, who's doing his best to not celebrate too much, and to Steve Howey. Steve, I mean, it was some heck of a first half. It was still 0-0. We wondered if the goals would come in the second half, and they certainly did. What did you make of the second half performance?
The second half, again, I think when Newcastle scored, you basically thought, well, it's been coming. But having said that, if it was Man City that scored, you'd have said exactly the same. Well, it's been coming because the opportunities how open the game was. But ultimately, Harvey Barnes is the difference. He's the one that's got the 2 goals. But City be disappointed because ultimately, when you go away from home and you create that many chances, and not only chances, but kind of open chances that there were, you would expect to get something from the game. So obviously very disappointing not to get anything from that.
Yeah, of course, Harvey Barnes had that really bad miss in the first half that we were talking about. That seems to have fueled him in the second half, Rob.
Yeah, I think that was the difference. I think the difference was the finishing of Harvey Barnes especially, but Newcastle's finishing was better. It was still really even. It was a really, really good game. But I think Newcastle had the better chances and took the chances. So yeah, I think they deserved to win today, and they played really well.
Feels like perhaps Harvey Barnes is a man that wants to go to the World Cup, although he hasn't decided with which nationality he is yet.
Listen, I said before the game, he's one of Newcastle's best finishers. He's certainly the wingers. He's the best finisher. Always scored. I liked him at Leicester. Always scored goals at Leicester. Always scored goals for Newcastle. Hasn't always been the first choice with Alanga coming in and Anthony Gordon, but he's a great finisher. And I think Man City got to be very careful. They don't rely too much on Erling Haaland for all his goals, because Phil Foden's got to get goals, Docker's got to get goals. We know Haaland's a great goal scorer, but today he was non-existent, but he had 2 good chances, so he could have had 2 goals, and everyone's raving about him again. But I think Newcastle's defence held him well today.
We're just seeing Bruno Guimaraes and Pep having a heated discussion, shall we call it? That's 2 passionate men.
Yeah, I think it looks as though they're kind of agreeing to disagree. There's obviously something has gone on. I'm not too sure what it is, so we can't really comment on what it is. But yeah, obviously after the game, everybody's tensions are still high. Something must have happened. Something would have been said. Don't know whether it's maybe celebrations because they've won. Has he done it too much? I don't know. But obviously something hasn't gone down very well. But that happens, unfortunately. Or it just happens. It's just one of them things.
We talked about Newcastle before the game and the difficult start to the season that Newcastle have had, but of course we talked about how different they are when they play away from home, when they play at home. Again, looking at that performance today for you, Rob, there must be an element of pride, but also frustration that they can't take those performances to away games. Yeah,
they seem to do it against the big teams. The Champions League, every Champions League game they've been brilliant at home. The away games when they're playing against, no disrespect to the Brentfords and the Brightons, they seem to struggle. But Man City, I think, struggled with Newcastle's press, and Newcastle pressed and they kept it going this time because, as the stats show, in the second half, Newcastle normally it's hard to keep going 90 minutes doing the press. But actually today, I think they did it really well, and again, I think they deserved to win. It was a tough game. Man City are a really good team. People forget that. So it's a good scout for Newcastle.
So let's have a chat through the goals. So Newcastle made it 1-0, as we say, by Harvey Barnes. Bruno Guimaraes plays a little 1-2 with him, and he finishes pretty powerfully into the bottom corner. What did you make of that goal?
Well, again, that was his toughest chance. He missed a sitter in the first half. He missed another good chance he usually does better with. But it was right in the corner. Donnarumma was playing fantastically well, and he couldn't get nowhere near it. And I think that's the difference. And I think if we have players that are attacking players like our wingers, Because our midfielders don't score enough goals. Newcastle midfielders don't score enough goals. That's my only criticism, because otherwise they're brilliant. So it's down to our wide players to get the goals. And as I said before, he always gets goals. And I think if it fell to somebody else, they wouldn't have scored that.
And then City equalised only a few minutes later. A great response from City, Steve, although if you asked me to pick which player on the pitch it was going to be that scored, I mean, Ruben Diaz would probably be my 9th or 10th pick there, but he responds fastest and he squeezed the ball home.
Yeah, I mean, I know it takes a deflection and I think it goes in off sharp, but I think it's still hitting the target. But he's in the right place at the right time. You know, sometimes defenders in them positions can blaze it, but he keeps it down, gets it on target, and you've always got a chance if it's on target. We had this discussion at half time, you know, just get it on target, you've got half a chance at least. And he does that, and so it's the perfect response. So you're then thinking, so it's a wide open game, and it could be anybody's game. Again, you would still expect City, can they just go that extra gear? But to be fair, Newcastle, they got that second goal, and again, to be fair, I thought they defended very well after that. Yes, they dropped deep and they made it difficult to be broken down, but ultimately hung on for the 3 points.
So we were calling for goals at half-time, and then the 3 of them came in such a short period of time in that second half. Newcastle, with their winning goal, made it 2-1 from Harvey Barnes, but I guess the talking point of that is the possible offside in it. So in the build-up to it, it's Guimaraes and it's Ruben Diaz. I guess all I've got to say on it these days, Rob, is I just do not know anymore what is a foul or what is offside.
Well, I don't understand what VAR get involved with and what they don't. You know, we saw Phil Foden foul, looked like a foul to everybody. VAR don't get involved in that. And we saw the offside when it's with, 3-4 minutes? If it's that long, VAR was meant to be brought in to say clear and obvious mistakes by a referee, to help the referee, not referee the game for him. And I think that if it takes that long to see it's offside, then just let the referee's decision go. So I just don't understand VAR's, you know, why it was brought in. Yes, I agreed with why it was brought in, so clear and obvious mistakes to help the referee, but it seems to be getting involved in things that it shouldn't, and then doesn't get involved in things that it should. So I'm not a lover of VAR, never will be.
Yeah, I always like to think it's not the technology, it's the people that are using the technology. And in this one, Steve, I just do not get it. I cannot understand anymore what the offside law is, because the picture that we are seeing on social media, there is a line going from just above his elbow. I don't know what the law is anymore.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, we were sort of saying when you looked at it, you thought if it gets called offside, then that's harsh because it looks as though it's in line. But then 10 minutes later, we get a picture on the screen, sort of showing why it was onside. And it's just one of them. You do get puzzled. You tend to think, are they making this picture up just to suit it so it looks as though, well, we've got the right decision or what? I don't know. I think sometimes but that's what frustrates fans, is the consistency, and the only consistency is the inconsistent.
Yeah, and taking nothing away from the Newcastle win. Certainly, we're not doing that in any way, but you're just calling for consistency, like in the decision-making process.
We get subjective decisions. As I said, we have this conversation where 3 could agree, 2 mightn't, but that's what happens. But I think, you know, sometimes we're getting away. Let's be honest, football's the entertainment business. Sometimes you're down and celebrate because you're not sure what's going to happen, and that kind of puts a dampener on, you know, the excitement of when you scored. A forward or anybody scoring would look across the linesman. If the linesman's got his flag down, it's a goal. End of.
Oh, I've done it myself as a fan celebrating. You do it, Steve. You do. You check to the linesman. You do, certainly. But of course, the goal stood and it was 2-1. City continued and Pep made 3 changes, tried to influence the game. So Oscar Bob came on, Savinho came on, and Tijani Reinders came on. Did you feel like any of them made an impact in the last 15?
I think it's difficult for them because then Newcastle have dropped deep and they're just basically they've got Elanga, who's absolutely rapid. And Willock, who he's exactly the same. So it's a case of drop deep. Can we win the ball and catch them on a counter-attack where you've got 2 boys up front that's got pace? And that's what they did. So I think it was a difficult ask for those 3 to come on and kind of change the game. Unfortunately, they haven't got Kevin De Bruyne that we'd seen in a game a few years back. But you've got to give it to Newcastle. I thought they defended resolutely as a team.
What do you think City can learn from this game and take forward? Because our next game is Tuesday night.
I just, as I mentioned before, you can't rely too heavily on Erling Haaland. He's going to have off games. He's going to have games where he's policed really well. He's going to have games where he misses chances. And then you've got to have other players that help, that score goals. Phil Foden, for the ability Phil Foden's got, some of the chances he had today, I'd be really disappointed because he's on his left foot. He'll, a couple of seasons ago, be curling them into the top corner, bottom corner. So we need, Phil Foden needs to be scoring more goals. Doku needs to be, he scored a goal last week, but he still needs to be scoring more goals because they're the attacking players. You can't rely always on Erling Haaland because he will get injured, he will have loss of form, and he will miss chances.
Steve, how about you? What do you think City can learn from this game?
Yeah, ultimately it's about taking your chances because they had plenty of them. I mean, the game could have been out of sight. But having said that, so did Newcastle. Newcastle had plenty of chances. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Rob. I think, whilst we all know that Erling is the main goal scorer, I think you have to look at kind of, can the other players contribute? We've seen a number of times today where we've seen Phil just get his head up and just feed that in the bottom corner. But for some reason, he just sort of left his shooting boots at home. I think Bernardo Silva, another one, it was actually closer than what we thought. It was quite close to the top corner. But, them's the fine lines of winning and losing games.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that result means Chelsea had a victory today. So Chelsea have now jumped us. They are into second place on 23 points. They're into third on 22 points. Arsenal play tomorrow. They're on 26. It's the North London derby tomorrow. So you never know what will happen there, but of course we'll all have our eyes on that one. And then we will look forward to Tuesday night because it's only a few games until we are back in action. And we are home at the Etihad Stadium ahead of our Champions League game against Bayer Leverkusen. Now, there is still tickets available for that one if you fancy coming along and seeing Champions League football at the Etihad Stadium. So Bayer Leverkusen had a 3-1 victory today against Wolfsburg. They're currently sitting second in the Bundesliga, of course, behind Bayern Munich. But in the Champions League, faring less well. They're 21st as it is in the long Champions League table. They're only on 5 points at the minute in the Champions League table. We currently sit 4th in that. So, Bayer Leverkusen, Steve, I mean, I'm always happy when we play a few days after a defeat because we can bounce back, but they are going well in the Bundesliga and they know that they're going to need to pick up some points to start moving up the Champions League table. Yeah,
but that's a good thing because it means that they have to come forward, which is a good thing for City because then that could possibly lead gaps. So again, we could be up for and in for a very exciting game. You don't want a team that they've got enough points but they can't afford to lose. Bayer Leverkusen need to win, so they'll be coming forward.
And you're on comms for that one?
I am.
Are you practicing your pronunciations already?
Absolutely.
Very nice. Studying the Bundesliga?
Of course.
Always. Rob, in terms of a Champions League game for City just 3 days after a defeat. We know Bayer Leverkusen are a good team. You're not second in the Bundesliga by accident in any way. What sort of game do you think City should expect on Tuesday?
It'll be a tough game. But with all due respect to the Bundesliga, it's not the Premier League. Lost a game against Newcastle. Always tough to go to Newcastle. And what you want as a player, you want a game come as quickly as it possibly can. So I expect City to beat them. And
you've got Marseille away.
Marseille away. It's away.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Anything could happen with Newcastle.
We'll see the different Newcastle. Yeah, not the one
Possibly.
we saw today. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for being here today.
I loved it. Thank you very much.
It's been lovely to have your time today. Have fun on Co-Coms on Tuesday night. So you're with Alistair Mann, and then Kel is in the studio with Izzy Christiansen, and Stephen McInerney is back in the studio as well in the stadium. So don't forget, there is tickets available for that game if you would like to come along and watch. So thank you for joining us on Matchday Live this evening. It certainly was not the result we were hoping for at St James's Park, but we will indeed look to bounce back on Tuesday night in the Champions League when we take on Bayer Leverkusen, and Matchday Live will be with you as always. And then I'm off to Korea on Wednesday because we are taking Matchday Live on tour. We very much look forward to meeting all of our fans in South Korea, in Seoul, for the Leeds game. So next Saturday we will be doing our show live from Seoul.
Must be nice.
I know. I'm sorry, Steve.
Yeah.
You didn't get on that one.
No, I haven't been on one.
We booked you for today and Tuesday, and then we thought it can't be 3 in a row. So we invited Neda Manua and Fabian Delph will be joining me in Seoul, and we cannot wait to meet all of our fans out there as well. So thank you very much for joining us on Matchday Live this evening, and we will see you on Tuesday night.
Oh my word, that is absolutely incredible from Nick a goal, that is!